All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to season 4 of Black.Queer.Alive. I am Mimi Tempestt, and I am here with Chanel Ray. Hey, Chanel.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going as it possibly could. Um, I really liked your response to the open call. I feel like a lot of people talk about being like mixed race or like black and white or black and Latinx and black and so I was really interested to get your take on that and just kind of run with it and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally down.
Cool, cool. All right, let's start it off. Tell me your age, what you're passionate about, and what motivates you.
Just going right into it. My my age, I am 28. I am very passionate about people, to be honest. I went to school for communication studies. I actually started out going to school for journalism, sports journalism, but I didn't want to limit my scope. So I decided to branch out and go to school for communication studies. I genuinely just love being around people, getting to know people from all over the world. Ever since I was a kid, I have always just been friends with people from all walks of life. So I'm genuinely just passionate about being around people, working with people. I love working with kids and just finding ways to volunteer and just do whatever I can to make a difference, as corny as that sounds. But I love to just make my mark, and I want to be able to leave some sort of legacy. Um, what motivates me? Um, you know, I feel like that has changed a lot throughout my life. I've really been kind of thinking about the questions that you sent over, and I realized that the child version of myself motivates me. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and I'll definitely get more into that in a bit, but I feel like um, being able to think back to how I was as a kid and just walking through fearless and just being able to go for whatever it is that I wanted, in a way that was so unapologetic and just, move through life in a way that, no matter, truly moment to moment, which I feel like now we kind of have to live that way again, not knowing what tomorrow is going to look like, let alone the next moment. So I feel like remembering who I was back then and also just my family and my friends around me, the things that they do motivate me as well. And I also feel like the negative things that are happening around us motivate me to want to really be able to find my voice and use my voice correctly, to be able to make that kind of positive change that we need to see. So, yeah,
Wow. Yeah. I
yeah,
think it's powerful. I think moving through the world and just moving day to day with that intention makes like drastically a difference in the world. Yeah, I mean, even if it's like a small thing that no one will ever know, but and the people whom you interact with will feel that difference. So
absolutely.
yeah, I feel it's powerful.
Yeah.
You said you were into communications, and also in your response, you said you love basketball. I come from a big basketball family. I'm actually like
All
the
right. All right.
I'm the weirdo of my family. Like I'm like poet, art, all the, theater, visuals, and everyone in my family is just like 100% basketball. What is your, even though I am not affiliated with the game, I have an intense knowledge for it and love for it that a lot of people don't know about. So I'm interested to see and hear what your relationship to basketball is.
I love that. I feel like we could totally be friends, by the way. Um,
Yeah.
already. I already know. Already. I feel like that's a very fun fact about you, by the way. That's really cool. The game of basketball, and actually this shirt says break ankles and shatter the ceiling, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yes,
Yeah.
especially for women's basketball.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The game of basketball has honestly made a bigger impact on my life in more ways than I can begin to count. Um, I feel like I was introduced to the game when I was really little, and it's funny. There's a story my parents always tell about me. Um, it was like before they came out with hoops where you could like adjust the height. So you, as soon as you put it at whatever height it was at, that's just where it was at.
Yeah.
So we put it at regulation, and my parents always tell the story of me being 3 years old outside, just chucking the ball up there, having absolutely no chance at all of getting it anywhere even close to the net, let alone the rim. And just constantly outside every single day, trying and trying and trying. So I feel like you asked a question too in the list that said, you know, where do you feel safe?
Oh,
And the number one place that I feel safe, and I would say even like invincible, and not to say like, oh, Steph Curry could step on the court and I could beat him, nothing like that, you know, nothing like that, but like a place that I genuinely feel like almost like a superhuman is on a basketball court. I feel like anything is possible. I feel like my mind just instantly gets clear. If I ever need to just step away or kind of feel like I'm in like almost like a different world, I just grab a basketball, I go to any court. And I think what I love about the game too is you don't need anybody else to do it with you. You know, if you want to go play catch or something, you know, for baseball or football, you need somebody else. But basketball, there's hoops everywhere. And it's kind of a fun thing I like to see is to seek out courts. And anytime I see them, I always have at least a ball or two in my car and I'll stop and play. And there's just, yeah, there's something so therapeutic about it for me. Because I always was that little girl who was the one person playing with all the boys. And I've always just, it's just always given me that spark and that sense of life. And that's kind of how it also plays into that young version of me where I was very just like, you couldn't tell me anything. You know, I was very unapologetic about everything that I did. So.
yeah, I resonate with that so much. Like I said, I have an appreciation for the game, but my brother and sister played professionally, and I've seen my brother and sister do some superhuman shit on the
I
like
love that.
and that's how there's when it comes to basketball, my mom was a college coach, so she used to say it's 10% physical, 90% mental.
Totally
Meaning
agree with that.
your approach to the game, your approach to how you step on the court, even outside the court, dictates the type of player you're going to be, but most importantly, the person that you're going to be, the human that you're going to be in life.
Right.
And yeah, I love what you're saying because I think basketball is one of those sports or games that has a magic to it that unless you don't participate in it like the way you're describing or the way I've seen and experienced my entire life, you'll never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I truly believe that. Yeah, I just feel like and honestly too, I feel like the WNBA and the NBA are also the most progressive leagues, just the way that they handle things both on and off the court. It's just unmatched. But yeah, I just feel like the game, and I completely agree with that. I feel like unless you actually have played the game, have been a part of a team, there is just something that it just kind of goes without saying. There is such a magic to the game. There's such a way to be able to connect to it. And I think of all sports, I actually have a podcast where I talk about this. I feel like something that I found when I was going to school, and the reason why I wanted to go to school for communication studies, I've always been someone who doesn't necessarily believe that there's even a language barrier. I feel like there's always a way, anybody in the world, that you can find a way to connect, right? So with basketball, because that's how I first fell in love with the game of basketball. I feel like even if you didn't give a damn about basketball, but you're super passionate about nonprofit work or history or fashion, music, whatever, the point of the way that I talk in this podcast is to say, okay, Mimi, well, you love nonprofit work. Let me get you set up with talking about, learning more about Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
He does a lot of nonprofit charitable work off the court. So that's how I just feel like, especially with the game of basketball, there's so many ways that people who couldn't care less can still find a way to connect. And I think that there's so much just to say, let alone just about that itself. So
Most definitely. I mean, studying, the players and the coaches, my favorite people to study in basketball are John Wooden and Phil Jackson. And
absolutely.
you'll learn a lot about strategy alone and
Mhm.
and innovation and discipline alone just with those folks.
Agreed. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Such a fun fact.
Yeah. I don't talk about it often. I go home and I spit all this shit with my people because they have this knowledge. It's like constant. Um,
Right.
but outside of that, I don't get to indulge in that pleasure. So I'm glad I touched base with you on this.
Anytime, yeah.
Before we move on, who are your favorite players or coaches, just anyone in the league, current or the past, that you feel inspired by?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you spoke to my heart, because I've been a day one Laker fan since I think I came out the womb. My dad was like, "Here you go, here are the Lakers."
Yeah.
So I would have to say Phil Jackson's probably one of my favorite coaches. Also, like you said, just an interesting human, to be honest, to learn about. Favorite player,
He studies the mind.
he studies the mind 100%.
Yeah.
I actually been reading this book called The Mindful Athlete, um, about a gentleman who used to work with Phil Jackson and a plethora of players like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, just about the mindfulness and how they get into the zone of playing the game. Um, of course, growing up in the Kobe Shaq era, I actually enjoyed watching Shaq play more than Kobe, but I of course love Kobe as well. But all-time favorite player, and I'm actually looking at a poster, like a artist depiction of him, is Allen Iverson, number one favorite player
Ah,
of all time. There's a picture of him and he's going like this. Number one player of all time. But also too, growing up watching WNBA, I used to love Teresa Witherspoon, Lisa Leslie. I actually was at the game when Lisa Leslie was the first woman to dunk in a game.
wow.
And I remember, it was crazy. I remember sitting next to my mom and she got that steal and I was literally whispering to my mom, like, please dunk it, please dunk it, please dunk it. And then she did. And it was the coolest, one of my favorite memories.
That is
Um,
so cool.
yeah. So yeah, I could talk basketball all day. So
Okay. I was like,
yeah,
let's
yeah, I was like, hold on, let me reel it back in. So,
pronouns.
absolutely. My pronouns are she, her.
Okay, cool, cool. If you feel comfortable with this question, what is your gender expression, and how do you sexually identify?
Yeah, absolutely. My how I identify is interesting because I feel like growing up where I was always kind of made to feel like I, wasn't black enough or wasn't, but I wanted to like, kind of be a part of like the white culture, right? But I've really come to like discover who I am, and so I now identify as a mixed race black queer woman. Um, yeah, and I feel like, and I've heard a lot of people's different, different definitions of how they view themselves as queer. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I view as queer for me, but it feels like the closest definition of, identification of how I view myself. Um, and so yeah, I it just feels like I'm really coming into my own and finding my spot and like where I see myself. So yeah, that's how I identify.
Yeah, I like that mixed race black queer woman.
Hmm.
Um, most people, and I'm just throwing out this question, would say, there is no such thing as a mixed race. I disagree. I'm Afro Latinx, so I'm Black
Uh-huh.
Mexican. So there's definitely cultural intersections and blendings and enmeshments that happen when you come from two different cultures. Um,
Hmm.
what does mixed race mean for you?
Yeah, I feel like, and it's interesting. I wrote a spoken word about this when I was in college. Is I feel like when I was, especially like, you remember, did you ever take like those state tests? They were like the star tests, and you
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
click the box of like, yeah, and it was before they had the two or more races box. So I remember sitting there as a kid and I asked and I think there's actually a story that Meghan Markle had the same, she was interviewed and had the same response, um, where she raised her hand and asked her teacher, she was like, well, I'm not just black and I'm not just white. So which one do I pick? And I remember feeling the same way of being like, well, I feel like if I choose one or the other, I feel like I'm choosing one parent over the other. And
Mhm.
so, and then two, because I've grown up in this area that is, might as well be 99.9% white, right? So I was always felt like I had to assimilate to this white, overly white culture. Um, so I feel like, when I say that I'm mixed, it's me being proud and saying that I'm proud to be associated with where my mom comes from and proud to associate with where my dad comes from. But because there is so much of white, I mean, the whole everything is white culture. So I just feel like I've since starting to identify as a mixed race Black woman, I want to know more about my dad's side of the history, family history and things like that. So
Okay. Okay. I think
is that is I was gonna say, does that answer your question?
I know it does.
Okay.
With these questions, I'm never looking for like a right or wrong. It's just more so processing your answer and seeing how it fits or doesn't fit. It's just like
Right.
an expression. So it's more of a processing.
Yeah.
Um, did you ever feel that's not the word. How did it feel being mixed race, being in that white culture, especially at a young age or now? Like, was there a comfort to it, or did you feel foreign, or what was that assimilation like that need to assimilate?
Um, it was never comfortable
Mm.
for many reasons. And it still isn't really, to be honest. I've found comfort in the uncomfortable, but it there was always the looks of like always people looking at me and looking at my mom or looking at my dad, and it's funny because like if you look at my mom, we look exactly alike. She just is white, blonde hair, and blue eyes. My dad is just a little bit darker skin. You know what I mean? And it's just we look exactly the same. But people always want to see you and be
Mhm.
like, well, you're supposed to have this skin tone, or you're supposed to have straight hair and straight blonde hair, and you're supposed to have that same eye color, or else people would say, oh, you must be adopted, or there's no way that could be your mom, or whatever it is. Um, you don't talk like her, you don't do this like her, it's all that stuff. Um,
See.
and especially as a kid, when I was a kid, my parents got divorced really young. And at that time, it was like still, there wasn't very many, couples or families that I was friends with that whose parents were divorced or separated. Um, so then also too, I knew that I didn't quite know that I was queer at that time, but I knew that there was something different about me. And I also, until I was in middle school, I all I wore to school every day was basketball shorts and a t-shirt,
Yeah.
which were boys' clothes, right? So there was a lot of different things that I was navigating, but in regards to feeling like I had to assimilate to this white culture, all the people around me in elementary school was a little bit better because I had such a diverse group of friends. But when I got into especially high school, it was the worst. It was that whole vibe where we're reading To Kill a Mockingbird and the N-word comes up and everyone darts their eyes at me,
Yeah.
or we're at prom or homecoming and Lil Jon comes on and everyone's like, let's watch Chanel get hyphy or do the jerk,
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, right. Or like, oh, I can say the N-word because I have a Black friend, or whatever it is. And I was at this point where it was like, I have 4 years of this. So do I want to allow these people to feel empowered to do these things and to say these things? Or do I want to, say something and make it more uncomfortable for me? But at that point, it was like, which of the two? It was almost like choosing between the two evils. And when I look back at it now, I honestly don't know what I would have done different because either way, it was pretty awful. And recently, actually, my mom found my high school yearbooks, and I immediately was like, throw those things, like burn them, throw them away.
Wow.
Not even remembering just how bad they were going to be. And I opened them, and there were things that were like, I hope you're all right for a Black girl, like signing in my yearbook,
In the book, right?
in
Like,
the book. Yeah,
yeah.
like end of the year, like, oh, instead of like not like have a great summer, it was like, hope your summer is filled with Kool-Aid and chicken like it's supposed to be.
Oh man.
Yeah. And then like a bunch of white people using the N-word, like you're my favorite N-word, all these different things, like calling me like Cocoa Puff and all these different things. Yeah.
Oh fuck.
So I just feel like it was never comfortable. And even now it's like, growing up around here, there's still people who I leave Target and I make sure that I have the receipt out so people know it's like I paid for this, which is no different than a lot of, in a lot of places, but because it's such a concentrated white area, that I'm like, okay, I obviously stand out for a number of reasons, but
Mhm.
I want to make sure that there's no issues, um, at least as much as I can control. Um, but yeah, now I'm just that much more hyper vigilant about who I let into my space, how I give my energy, protecting my peace and my energy, um, and just a lot of things. But yeah, it's and it's interesting. Ever since the summertime with the protests and things like that, I've actually had people from high school reach out to me and apologize for the way that they acted towards me, things that they said to me.
How did you feel about that?
I wasn't receptive to some people because they're still no different. Others were actually friends of mine who they weren't the ones to do anything or say anything, but they didn't stop their friends from doing and saying the things that they did say to me at that time. So they were apologizing for not stepping in and saying like, that's really messed up, you shouldn't do that. And they were letting me know that they were, you know, apologetic, but also that they were reaching out to those people now to have conversations
Mm.
about how that wasn't okay and that they hopefully are not still that way. um
And you
but
said
it
you're
kind of
28, right?
28, yeah.
So this is like in context to right now. This is 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
So white guilt is strange to me.
It Yes.
So these motherfuckers knew back then that that was wrong, and they carried that with them for 10 years.
What's crazy too is some of these people, one of the people was actually mixed, is actually also mixed, and was friends with a bunch of these white people who did this.
Mhm.
And so, but it also, some of the people that reached out, and including this person who I was friends with at the time, um, it just sort of felt performative
Let's
and
do
very like, you know, and very like, you know, black square and then nothing else, you know,
it.
black square on Instagram and then nothing else.
Then
So again, yeah, so it just kind of was like, I understand that you just, you know, you want to, again, still reach out to the probably one, maybe two black people that you have in your life to feel like, okay, I did my part, you know, I checked on her, you know, so I can check that box now.
yeah,
Um, yeah, but it just
white people are strange.
very strange, very strange. Yeah.
And also, I'm listening to your story about assimilation, and it seems like most Black people that it was your mode of survival.
Truly. I mean, the hundreds of dollars that I spent on Brazilian blowouts to make my hair straight and damage my curls. And I love my curls. I've always loved my curls. You know, begging my mom to get me True Illusions and Uggs and, you know, whatever other bullshit we were wearing back then. You know, it's like just to be not the standout more than I already was. You know, it's like, because back then it was the schools I was going to, it was like, oh, it was very Mean Girls-esque. It was like, oh, you're wearing that, you can't sit with us, sort of thing, you know? So I wanted to do anything I could to not make my experience any more uncomfortable than it already was. You know, meanwhile dodging people again, you know, saying the N-word or being like, you're this or you're that, or trying to tell my story for me.
Yeah.
Uh, you know. So
Well, where do you find home now?
you know what's interesting is I think as a result of those experiences, um, and then after high school, and then I didn't come out until I was 22. And then I actually was in a relationship, was engaged, got out of that relationship, and then got into another one that recently ended, actually not too long ago. I realized that in these last couple months, that without realizing it though, until these last couple months, that I've been looking for home in other people.
Wow. Okay.
And so, and I don't think I ever wanted to realize that. I've always had a lot of confidence, a lot of love for myself, but I didn't really take that in to be like, it was more of, you know, when people are like, oh, it's Sunday, I'm going to do my face mask and I'm going to deep condition my hair and really pamper and take care of myself. I think I tried to mask that as like really showing myself love,
Love.
self-love, self-care, you know, self-care Sunday. but again, I always have had a lot of like self-confidence and belief and faith in myself, but I never really did the work. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I don't think I was ready to, but whew, I have fully jumped on the train of like deep dive healing, self-love, indulgence, and investment into me. And so I think I honestly now find home in myself. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm comfortable to just sit in complete silence. And even if it's something uncomfortable that happened and there's some truth that's come to light about myself, about somebody that I thought I knew or that I love, a family member, a friend, whatever it is. I just feel like now that I'm truly getting to know who I am, and it makes sense because I feel like at this time of my life, there's like a new life cycle that's coming through.
Yeah, you said you're 28.
28, yeah.
You and I are both going into our Saturn return, so it's like a reset. It's like being all over again.
Yeah, I fully feel that energy shift, and I don't know, I feel just like a zen. It's just, I'm really getting to know like that next stage. And so yeah, I was thinking a lot about that question, and I really find home in myself. And it's funny, I'm a Taurus, and so I'm naturally a little bit of a hermit.
Taurus too.
Oh, you are? Well, okay, wait, when's your birthday?
May 5th.
I was like, May 2nd.
Hey!
What's up? I feel like you're my soul sister.
Very connected. I feel this.
Let's go. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I used to be in love with a man who had a May 2nd birthday too. So something about us May Taurans, when we meet each other, it's cosmic and beautiful.
It is. I love that. So I honestly, I feel, and I think too, like in these last couple months, I've really found like, I feel like every time I've tried to do this level of work, it's more of just like, I'm gonna get this banging body, and I'm gonna, intense, positive intentions and all these, whatever it is. But now it's just like, nah, I'm really focused on just, and especially with the new year, I'm sure people have come to you, or, you've seen posts of like, these are my resolutions. I've never been that kind of person, but, or even just people having a bunch of goals, especially after last year. I feel like my goal is really just protect my peace and my energy. And then all the things that I want and I'm really working towards will naturally happen because I'm doing those two things, right? So
I feel that intensely.
Yeah.
Are you searching for anything?
Peace. Yeah. I would say peace, because I feel like, and not to sound redundant, but man, I feel like last year collectively was pretty atrocious. And then everybody else, just because life is what it is, had their own things that they were dealing with on top of that. So I just feel like in the world, personally, professionally, peace for sure. It feels like it's just been such a whirlwind that, and I just feel like too, the more I feel connected to myself, the more I can feel other people's energy. And so it's easy to like, right, which is kind of nice. Not kind of nice. It's actually really nice, because also too, when I've been around other people, whereas now it's like, as soon as I feel like a dark or like a bad energy, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, nope. It's like a superhero, like superheroes getting their powers, and I can just like dodge it real quick, right? I'm like, I feel you, but like, nah, I'm good. You can stay over there. Yeah.
That's true. I think that's a level of consideration that people don't take. We just don't think about it. I feel like a lot of us are conditioned to like constantly be giving ourselves, whether it's through social media or through it's that constant overshare. And it's to the point where certain things about yourself don't become sacred. And when you acknowledge that sacred and you acknowledge that peace, then you become very conscientious of how you want to share with other folks.
See, and I was just gonna say that, like, as part of protecting my peace and my energy, it's also my privacy.
Mhm.
Is it's crazy actually. A friend of mine was the one who told me that you were doing this, and so I was sent the information. I submitted it, and then honestly, I have maybe been on Instagram like 5 times since then. But Instagram brings me so much anxiety and depression that I don't even dabble with it anymore. I might completely delete it because it's just too much. I'm more of like a Twitter person.
Weird. I've transitioned to Twitter a lot more too. I get a little wild on Twitter sometimes,
But that's what it's for.
but yeah, I've transitioned this well 2020 to really thinking about how I share myself. I only do my work, like work that I'm passionate about. I don't share a lot of my opinions.
Hmm.
But to me, this is the sharing that I think is valuable.
Very valuable. Absolutely. Yeah, because also too, I feel like the way that especially platforms like Instagram are used, it's just there's nothing authentic about it anymore, you know? And there, I don't know that there ever was, but there's such a pressure to consistently contribute to this highlight reel. But at
Yeah,
least on Twitter, you know, if you have a shitty day, you will read someone else who's like, today was ass, you
yeah,
know?
horrible.
Right? Whereas like on Instagram, you could be talking to someone who is like in a deep depressive hole, but then on Instagram it may look like they're just fine and dandy and won the lotto, you know? So it's just such a there's just I don't want to be a part of that
It's
anymore, you
not.
know, and it's
Yeah.
a lot, you know. So yeah, I agree with the positive, you know, the privacy and just protecting peace, and yeah, I'm definitely searching for more of that, more consistency with peace and good energy.
Where do you see yourself? Like this could be in a book, in a cartoon, movie, any type of media.
Yeah. For the longest time I never did. Like from like I'm just being a mixed race woman, I never saw myself as a kid. Um, which was hard because I was like, well, I guess I just gotta assimilate then. I gotta find some way to see myself in the Lindsay Lohans of the Parent Trap world, you know. It's like, you know, or Anne Hathaway in Princess Diaries. Don't get me wrong, I love those movies, but it was like,
Also, that's not me.
yeah, you know, it's like that's not me though. So you know, but there was like growing up too, it was like, okay, well, I'm kind of like a Reggie Rocket as far as a cartoon goes, you know,
Is
like
Reggie Rocket the little redhead girl, and she had like roller skates all the time?
she, yeah, she had, I don't think she had red hair. She had, I want to say she had like brown kind of wavy hair. But
Yeah,
yeah, she always was like skateboarding or rollerblading on
I
Rocket Power.
remember.
Yeah, and she would wear like camo pants and like a purple shirt.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
I remember
And I've
her.
seen really funny like articles written about like cartoons who were secretly lesbians or something, and I'm like, all right, all right. Yeah. So I'm like, you know, yeah, so that was kind of tough growing up, is like there was not really anyone who I connected with. But more so now, it's interesting, you know, you can walk into Target and look up somebody's gift registry and it's no longer a white couple, it's a black couple, it's a mixed race couple. um you know, or I mean, especially since the summertime when people really had a fire under their ass where they're like, oh wow, we have zero representation. You
Yeah.
know, there's, I don't know if you've seen, now there's like a Ritz crackers commercial with two gay men, Etsy commercials with different, you know, couples and things in there. So I still feel like it's hard to find like me in certain places and things. I would like to see more representation of, you know, women in love, women sexually, and like showing intimacy in like movies and shows. I feel like they'll like play with it, like in the show. I don't know if you've heard of it or seen it, Black Lightning. It's
I've
a
heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
yeah, it's a superhero show about this black family where the dad is Black Lightning, and then his daughters find out that they also have superpowers, and his oldest daughter um, dates women, but they always get like very close to there being like intimacy, and then of course they don't like show any of it. So I
Hmm.
feel like, you know, and it's I would like to be able to see more of it, to have it feel more normalized on a grand scale, because so many people are like, oh, well, what is it? What do you do? Or what is, it's just very like, it's just so like, or just more of like, I want to see like two women with a child, or, things like that. So still struggling with that, but I'm happy to see that there's more children's books that have that representation from
I,
a
I love some of those books. Oh my God.
right. And it
Yeah.
was actually to the point now I have I'm actually working on some for myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I have a niece and nephew who are, especially my niece, she is white, very white passing, but she does have a quarter black in her. And so I want her to be able to see herself represented in ways that she may not otherwise, right? So just things like that. I just feel like that's so important, and I feel like everyone deserves to be able to see themselves represented, no matter what their background, or if they're differently abled or whatever it may be. I just feel like that's so important, because searching for that, or trying to like just have some sort of like lesser than or kind of shitty substitute, is like, yeah, sure, like I said, I'll try to find myself in the Anne Hathaways of the world, but it's like, that's not me at all,
And the little that we do have needs to be exponential. I mean, you should be able to see as many variations of yourself as possible, at least when it comes to representation, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
When do you feel most safe?
Yeah, I would definitely say um there are two places actually, now that I think about it. I was talking about earlier, when anytime, like I said, anytime that I step onto a basketball court, definitely.
I'm sorry, you
No, no,
mentioned.
no, 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 no. I brought that up.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, no, no, you didn't ask it. But since then, I was also thinking, but I'll expand on that. So yeah, I would definitely say a basketball court, just because it, growing up, I would get bullied a lot. Again, for wearing like boys' clothing, which is such bullshit. I remember like literally in elementary school though, walking into the girls' bathroom and girls standing outside telling me like, you have to go into that bathroom, you don't belong in here. So I literally, one of my good friends would come in there with me, and there'd be times where I've actually barely told anybody these stories, but
Mm.
I would walk in and girls would be looking at me all funny, and I would say like, I belong in here, I promise, as I'm walking in just to use the restroom, because I literally had on a Nike t-shirt and basketball shorts.
Mm.
um, so I feel like whenever I step on a basketball court, it immediately would silence all of that bullshit, because people still, girls don't play basketball. You don't belong out here. Boys are the other one. We're gonna, you can't beat us. You can't da 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 da. Da. It's always you can, or you this or you that, and it's actually It's pretty cool. At my elementary school, there used to only be like, you were divided up by like your age, right? So it was like first to third you were on this side, and then fourth to sixth you're on the other side. And the little kids yard only had a half court, that's it.
Mm.
And my teacher, my second and third grade teacher, I guess used to just like sometimes watch us instead of going to her take her break. And I went back to visit her when I was in high school, and there was another court, like another half court to make it a full court, and then a full court on the other side. And I was like, oh, Mrs. Vick, like, that's so cool, like that they added more courts. And she said, oh, I went to them and I demanded that they find the money to add more courts. And I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. She goes, it's because I would watch you play with the boys that I asked them to add more courts. I was like, oh, so these are my courts. So I went over and I like dunked on them. Yeah,
Wow.
no, so I just there's a certain, any time that I've ever felt super happy, super down, just mediocre, as soon as I step on a court, whether I'm listening to music or not, I just feel such a weight has been taken off my shoulders. Um, but other than that, anytime I'm with my dad, I feel really safe. And we
Mm.
haven't always had the greatest relationship, and we've definitely healed it in the last, I would say, 2 years, like tremendously healed it. But anytime I'm with him, especially in the car, he's like the greatest driver. I feel like nothing will happen to me. So
Oh, that's powerful.
yeah.
Let's pivot to a memory. We kind of tapped into some memories for high school, but let's go younger if we can. Tell me about the first time you realized you were Black.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I remember when I was 4. Yeah, like one of my earliest memories. I was walking with my brother is 3.5 years older than me.
Mhm.
Um, and I was walking with my dad and my mom, and somebody spit in front of us. And I didn't realize quite why, but I knew it because they spit in front of my dad. And I had never seen him mad like that before, but he clearly was like doing something within himself to control his reaction in front of my brother and I. But I remember trying to figure out like why did that happen? Like looking around and being like, it's not happening to them, but it was all white people. Um, and I still didn't really understand. And he didn't really explain it to us. He kind of just was like, those are just mean people. They're just, they just have unresolved of whatever, right? Trying to like play it down to us to just try to get us to understand, like, you don't want to be around people like that. Yeah. Like some people are just, you know. Um, but to be honest, like I didn't really realize that I was Black until like what that really meant until I was in about first grade. Um, because my parents at that point were split. So like one of them, they would trade off like coming to pick us up. And I remember the days that my dad would come get us, it was not a problem because he at least looked similar to us. Like it made sense. But the days that my mom would come pick us up, they would say, like, again, they would be like, well, you must be adopted. You don't look anything like her. There's no way that she could be your kid.
And these were the school officials, the people that worked there, the principal, the office aides, or just
No, these were the kids.
okay.
Because I went to school with kids who like just white kids and Hispanic kids, but mostly white kids. So all their parents, they just happened to look just like them.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, there's no way. And I would always be like, why is there no way? Like this is just what I know. There's nothing I can change about this, and honestly nothing that I would. Um, but the biggest day was in elementary school. My mom took us to Mexico for spring break, and when we were coming back through customs, this guy was like, so I was in 5th grade and my brother was in 8th grade at that time. So we don't have obviously a driver's license or anything like that, no formal ID. At the most we would have is a school ID, but we don't have it on us because we're on vacation and it's spring
Yeah.
break, right? So we're going through customs and this guy stops us and he's like, you can't, we need to see your ID, to my brother and I. And my mom's like, what the hell? Like, no, like these are my kids. And he goes, how do I know you didn't just pick these kids up off the street?
Mm.
And she freaked the fuck out and then they stopped. But it was like at that point that I was like, oh, we really do have a completely different experience than you. And then it kind of just continued from there because I would go to the mall with my mom and people would kind of look at me, or I'd go into stores and people would follow me, just my mom would drop me and my friends off at the mall and I would be like, why is this person following me and not my friend Becky over there? So, mhm,
Mm.
yeah.
Let's go back to another memory.
Mhm.
Um, I love that you talked a lot about wearing basketball clothes, just like Nike t-shirt, basketball shorts, what's up?
Yeah.
But tell me about the first time you realized you were queer.
You know, there's a few times where I'm like, something is different. And I don't know how to articulate it yet, but something is different. So I've grown up, my parents have both worked in the industry, different sides of the industry, but the industry. My mom more of like the movie side and my dad the music side. Um, so my mom used to work for Steven Spielberg. So as kids, we went to a lot of like movie premieres and stuff like that. And I don't know if you remember the movie Mighty Joe Young. It's like about that, like
About the gorilla.
the big gorilla,
Yeah,
yeah. And it was like, I think it was Charlize Theron's like first movie.
I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went to the premiere and she was like 23, 24, but she was like stunning. So we went to the premiere. I was like 5. So we went to the premiere, and she, like, there was like an after party on the Santa Monica Pier, and she was coming towards us, and she was literally in this like black spaghetti strap, very short dress, and was just taking down a hot dog, like had mustard on her face, and was coming towards us. And I was like, just totally taken aback. And so was my brother, but he like was just stunned. And I looked at him and I was like, am I supposed to, like, I mean, this makes sense. I guess it makes sense for him to feel this way, but like, am I supposed to feel this way too? Because like, this is something. And she walked right up to me and my brother, and she said hi to my brother. She said hi to me, and she literally knelt down like to get to our level. I was like, hi, sweetheart. And I was like,
5-year-old, like,
I'm like, oh, hi. Like I said hi. My brother was dead silent because he was just like, But then when it really was like, it kept coming through is like, when Charlie's Angels came out, and there was that scene of Cameron Diaz in those little Spider-Man, like little boys, like undies, and she was dancing, and I was like, man, she's like hella cute. I don't know if other people feel this way, but so then other than that was anytime I heard like Craig David or Usher, yeah, see, throwback, Craig David or like Usher,
yes.
I always imagined myself being the man, but like still being me, but like being Usher or Craig David singing these lyrics to a woman.
Just like,
yeah, like just feeling it, just smooth. And I was like, oh, I just want to like sing this to like just a beautiful woman. And then I was like, but like for real though, not just like for just in my fantasy dream or something. Like I just can see this happening for me. And so every time I heard these songs, it was like I would imagine it, and then it just kept happening. And I would meet someone, and I'm like, does anybody else? Did the guys in the room feel this way? Did the other women in this room feel this way? Like, am I supposed to like hide this? I would have crushes on people that would have no idea, like grown women, everything. So, but yeah, that first time with Charlize Theron, who also was my brother's first crush, it did it. That hot dog eating black spaghetti strap dress was like, so now every time I see Charlize Theron, I'm like,
oh, that is hilarious.
It honestly makes me laugh and just smile when I think about it.
If you could go back to your 12-year-old self, what would you tell her?
You are a badass. Don't change. I was a badass. I was like I said, when I was in 6th grade, I think I had peaked already because I was like, oh, and one of those shirts, by the way, and I'm mad, I cannot find it. It's my favorite shirt of all time, and Nike does not make shirts like this anymore. It literally said, it said something like, if the last man standing wins, didn't ask the girl to play, or something like that. Like, whoever said the last man standing wins didn't ask the girl to play.
I see.
Yeah, I wore that religiously, and I mean, you could not tell me anything.
Sorry. The ambulance are passing by through my street.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Okay, they're good.
Okay. No, you're good.
Okay, what was the saying again?
Whoever said the last man standing wins didn't ask the girl to play.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. I was like, I remember I would literally hustle boys on the court. They would be like, you can't make that shot. I'm like, bet me $5. Even with a broken arm, I was playing with one arm, hustling. My mom would drop me off at school, and she was like, do you need any money? I'm like, if you only knew how much my piggy bank had. You know, it was like, but truly, I was killing it in school. I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. Like I was like, I'm gonna be on ESPN. I'm gonna do my thing. I had such a dope group of friends who like really had my back. I was like kind of class clowny, but you know, it was like, I just, like I said, it was just, you really, you know, I think the thing I struggled with most though was like taking criticism. I just hadn't quite learned that yet. Obviously, I was only 12, but I would definitely have my 12-year-old self say to me now is like, stop letting people just take advantage of you,
Mm,
because I was still as loving of a kid, but if someone stepped over my boundaries or tried to hurt my feelings in a way that was unnecessary or just not warranted, I let them know. And I think now it's like I'm too scared to like I don't do well with I don't like drama or anything like that, but I
confrontation.
yeah, I don't like confrontation, but it's like if somebody hurts my feelings or is like taking advantage of me, I don't necessarily advocate for myself until it gets too late or too far into it. Um, and I think I've let people kind of tell my story too much or write the narrative of me like from their perspective without even knowing me. Um, and that's never who I was. And so I think I'm finally taking that back. And also just I didn't give a damn what people thought about me when I was a kid. I really didn't. It was like you're cool with me or you're not, and that either way is fine with me. And now it's like, oh, you know, random nobody who I really don't care about at the end of the day. You don't like me, and now it hurts my feelings. You know, but like, but
Yeah.
I'm also taking that back too. So I guess you know, all comes full circle. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like as Taurians, I'm just going based off astrology right now.
No, yeah, I feel you.
We do like I think people don't realize like we are very reserved people. We keep to ourselves for the most part, and because we're kind of I want to say quiet or like there's like an aura of like mystery. People tend to place onto us their expectations or their perceptions of who they think we are, who they
Yeah,
think we should be, and
yeah,
it does take us to get our own backbone and be like, no, this is who I am. This is my boundary. Don't fucking step over it because these are the consequences, and I'm gonna follow through with that. So,
totally,
yeah.
totally.
What would you want to hear from your 60-year-old self?
Um, just keep going, keep showing up. I think last year put me in probably the darkest place I've ever been in, and I want to say it was because of certain events or certain people or interactions and things, but it also was like I allowed those things and those people to put me in those places, you know. Um, so I think just to keep showing up, but I'm really proud of myself. I feel like my resilience has really shown through and my ability to keep showing up for myself. But to not I think I would just want my 60-year-old self to say is just not let anybody take that sense of power that I have. And I think it's interesting because I feel like that word can be taken one way or the other. People are like,
Word
"Oh,
power.
yeah."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I feel like just that sense of me knowing who I am and not letting anybody take that from me or, you know, becoming too lenient on any one person or you know just really allowing me to step into who I know that I am, and continuing to invest in myself, following whatever it is that I want to do, um, and also just I feel like I get really excited about something and then I get into it but then I let like being too much of a perfectionist take over and then I stop working towards it. So I would hope that my 6-year-old self is looking back and is proud that like I continue to just keep going after it or keep going no matter what it is that comes up.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
How do you experience love, or how do you want to experience love?
I grew up in a very and I still do, which I'm very thankful for, a very unconditional loving environment. Um, and my dad is someone too who's always said to me, you know, stay loving. And it's actually something that I got as a tattoo because I feel like it's something that, you know, no matter what anybody else gives you or shows you, just to be true to yourself and to continue to be and stay loving towards other people because it always comes back to you. Um, so I think from other people as I continue to like I feel like I give so much of myself so quickly that because I want so badly to have that same kind of love back, where someone is just so, someone or some or people are just so caring and so, you know, thoughtful and devoted and understanding, and I just want to be seen for who, seen, felt, and like heard for exactly who I am. So I think I want that kind of love. It's just somebody who understands me for me, and I can just fully show up as that. um you know, doesn't try to take that away from me, or, you know, undermine my experiences or anything like that. Is comfortable just showing up as who they are without any other outside influences or anything like that. Um, I don't necessarily think unconditional love has to be that, but that's just what I've experienced, and I'm grateful for that because I know that my blood related family at least is that way, and I know that the chosen family that I have is that way as well. So I feel quite grateful for that.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I got two more questions, my
You,
dear.
you got it.
If you could change your identity or form, would you? And what would that be? And this question could be anything. You could change into a cloud, a body of water, something in space, a black hole, anything.
I love that question. Um, I actually have thought about that quite a lot. Um, I would not change my identity in any way, shape, or form. And I especially used to think about that when I was in high school, when I was like, man, what if I was just entirely white, like 100% white? What
Mhm.
if I, you know, what if I was just another, I don't know, Hannah? You know, it's like, or whatever, you know. But I'm like, no, I feel like I'm supposed to be, and it took me a long time to figure this out or to really be like, okay, yeah, I can see that. Um, Someone once told me you're right where you're supposed to be. And I was always like, but I hate right where I am right now, or whatever it is. But I believe that. And so I think the more I really tried to understand what that meant, and to really, like I said, like earlier, just sitting in like whatever uncomfortable truth that was in that moment, or super positive thing that was happening in that time, whatever lesson I was supposed to learn, positive, negative, you know, something I was supposed to grow from. It really allowed me to be that much more comfortable with who I am. Um, so there's honestly no part of my identity that I would change. I I think growing up where I have to, it kind of makes me, there's days, I'm not gonna lie, like even in this past week, I'm like, you know, I'm gonna go to the grocery store and I'm gonna get in and out in 15 minutes just in case there's any fuckery that might happen. You know, there's people who clearly feel emboldened to do some crazy things, and I don't want to be someone that they try to test anything on. But then there's other days where I'm like, I'm gonna blow the whistle through this white neighborhood and scare the white people. You know,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, because I don't really give a damn, and I'm just gonna be unapologetically me. You know, it's like two sides of things. But no, I really do love who I am, and I, you know, I look around, and sometimes I kind of wish I was a bird though, just to truly have a bird's eye view. um and yeah, just be able to just fly and coast and just see different people and just see a different angle of things, and uh maybe take a shit on some people sometimes, but just give people a quick little like, hey, I'm still here, so watch out. You know, don't try to pull any fast ones. Make people think it's good luck too that I took a shit on them. You know? No, but I honestly I love who I am, and I'm realizing more and more that um the people that I've met, the people who have, like, you know, the whole, you meet people for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, or whatever that is. I am embracing that more and more, and just feeling that much more gratitude and everything. So I just feel I feel really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, this is my last question.
Yes.
Is there anything that you want to express in this moment that I may have not touched upon?
Whew. Um. Well, we started out the conversation before you were recording about art.
Yes.
Um. I feel that there needs to be more emphasis on Black art.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Where
feel like,
does that come for, how is that coming up for you? Like as an opportunity, a possibility, and for yourself.
yeah, I just feel like in this past year, I just feel like I've become more connected with uh, my background, and also too earlier, just real quick, you said when is it that you first realized that you were Black? Also, my aunt Naila is someone who just always wanted me to know, and still does. I had a 4.5 hour conversation with her last weekend. Has always just instilled this power within me as a Black woman, and however I chose to identify. um but she has one of the, you walk into her house and you just feel like there's just so much history, so much culture. It just feels like anyone is welcome there. And she always too, though, everywhere you look, there's something from a Black owned business, there's something from a local Black artist, where she's always uplifting someone or someone in the LGBTQ community. I just feel like there still isn't enough emphasis on how much talent, how much beauty, how much just diversity, inclusivity. I'm looking around right now, and everything that I have in here is from a Black artist, or someone who is representing, you know what I mean? Like just some sort of representation of, I mean, Black people are magic, and I just feel like it needs to be represented more in that way. And again, too, like I said, I just feel like from an early age, um, with children's books, I feel like it needs to be seen there, especially. So I just feel like there needs to be more in animation. There needs to be more in children's TV shows, and I just feel like people just need to be able to have the opportunity to see themselves represented more.
I agree 1,000%. I agree 1,000%. I feel, and this is just me making a guess or like a hypothetical. I think that we're gonna go into a Black Renaissance within the next couple of years.
Hmm.
So I'm excited to see how your children's books are gonna bloom in the next couple of years, because most definitely we need to read. There needs to be more children's books. There needs to be more paintings, more sculptures. Um, it's like now is the time, and I for me, there's a lot of things going in my head regarding what you just said. I think it's despicable that like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, Elijah, I can't remember Elijah's last name, excuse
McLean.
me. McLean, thank you. That all these deaths that happened this summer seem to have facilitated a shift, not only for white people, but for Black people, for us to become more radicalized in our approaches to how we move in the world and how we create in the world. But I think a lot has come from that time, and people are like the light bulb is going on.
Hmm.
Not that it wasn't already, because you're right. Black people have always been magical, always been producing, always been um, operating like at a high caliber, but it feels different now. And yeah, I do think uh, I think it's going to shift even further than we could ever dream of.
Yeah, yeah, and I just feel like too, if anything, um, with pay disparities and things like that, I just feel like I've had a couple interviews since the summer, and I'm realizing I'm becoming that much more unapologetic again, because now I'm like, I know what my value is. No, I will not take that pay. No, I will not go into an environment where there's X amount of Brandons and Dylans and a bunch of that fuckery. I'm not going to go into a place where I feel unsafe or whatever. If you want me to do that, you need to raise my pay. If you want me to be a part of this team or whatever it is. So I think too, just like coming into this time where it's understanding that we can advocate for ourselves, and that it should be seen and heard, and that action needs to be taken, and if not, then just take our talents elsewhere. But it's just yeah, I just feel like it's just that much more important, and I'm glad that things are shifting, and seemingly it feels like they need to get far worse before they get better. But I don't know, I am on the optimistic side that things will shift in a way that is very, very lucrative and positive for our communities.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, I'm gonna stop our interview right here.